So I know what you're asking yourself. Is it any good? Hey, Dr. DuBose here. I tend to get asked two things relatively early in the class. One, what am I actually looking for? Makes sense. People want to know how to get a good grade. I also tend to get asked, so how do we do this writing thing anyway? Good question. Luckily, I'm a professional. Let's get into it. Now, here's what I tend to look for when I grade papers. After the first thing, the prime thing, the biggest thing is going to be argument. Argument is the most important thing in papers. What I mean by argument isn't necessarily the you're wrong, no, you're wrong, no, you're wrong thing that you're expecting. An argument is anything that you prove by citing evidence. Pretty much everything you write in college is going to be an argument to some extent. History papers aren't you just stating things that nobody could possibly disagree with. You're stating your point of view and you're providing evidence to justify it. If you're in a literature class, you're stating your interpretation of something and your justification for it. It's all about argument. One of the things that happens sometimes when we go over sample student papers is that someone will come across a paper that is fun, is neat to read, but there's no argument. And I've had people tell me that this paper would be very good if only there was an argument. No, argument is the most important thing. You are not going to get into the B range unless you have a solid, easily definable argument. If you have an argument that doesn't quite work, you're floating around the C to D range. If I can't find an argument at all, there's no way you're getting out of F. Because simply, that's the whole point of this. What are you trying to tell me, and how are you supporting it? Argument, argument, argument. You're going to hear me say that word so often, you're going to get a little bit sick of it. But it's the biggest thing I look for. The second thing is evidence. How are you proving your argument to me? I can make any number of claims, and unless I have evidence, there's no reason you should believe me on anything I say. Academic writing is largely about supporting your statements with good evidence, with good proof, with good logic, which is why we're going to cover all these things as we go along. Evidence is very important because without evidence, you can't support the argument, which is the most important thing. Say it with me. Argument. I will look at the structure and organization of your paper. It is something that I think is important, but it's important because if I can't follow how your paper goes, there's no way on earth I'm ever going to figure out what your argument is. If your paper jumps back and forth like a ping pong ball, sorry, I'll have no way of knowing if you're supporting your argument. An argument is the most important thing. Mechanics and grammar. I don't want to be one of these guys who comes along. I had a teacher this way. If you had a comma splice in your paper, he'd fail you immediately. And I've talked to other people. My psychiatrist says the same thing. He had a teacher. If you had grammar mistakes at all, you failed. I'm not that extreme, but mechanics and grammar are important because if I can't figure out what you're trying to say, if I'm spending all my time trying to decipher what your argument is because I can't figure out what your sentences say, your mechanics and your grammar are getting in the way of argument. I will always look at argument first and foremost, and everything else is important in terms of how it helps you or hurts you from getting that argument across. Remember, you're trying to say something and you're trying to convince me of something. That's the way to always look at it. And the question is, how do you actually go about doing this kind of stuff? So let's talk about how to do a good kind of argument. You know you want to argue on something, you just don't know how to go about doing it. Well, stage number one is review your sources. If you have never done research on something, you don't really have any ability to make a good argument. Research comes in and out of the process an awful lot. But I don't think you should even try to do a thesis unless you have some level of knowledge about your subject. So look at sources, see what everyone else is saying. It's not an argument if you're just repeating what other people say, but knowing what other people say can help you define what your own specific argument is. Follow the evidence. When you see sources that cite other people, read the things the other people are citing. Most college teachers will tell you they don't want to see Wikipedia in a paper. And we'll get into that one at another video. But the reason they don't want to see Wikipedia is a general interest source. What Wikipedia is trying to do for you is to give you a big, broad overview. You don't need big, broad overviews. We're doing more specific stuff here. What you can always do, though, is go to Wikipedia's sources. They always list them, and check out the original material for yourself. It is a good way to immerse yourself in a kind of ecosystem of thinking. Follow the evidence. Take notes as you look at your sources, as you look at your research. Don't rely on your memory. Research is a huge part of what we do here, and you cannot keep everything in your mind. One of the things you will find out as you go through Comp 1 is that you're going to be doing a lot of different stuff. Don't try to remember everything. Write stuff down. If you don't want to write in books, fine. Break out paper and write in that. Take notes in your phone, whatever, but you need to take notes because you're going to be going back to them, particularly when you were talking about research. The research will take the most time. You've got to become knowledgeable on your subject, or we're not going to be able to trust you. Now, once you've got an idea, write a thesis. A thesis statement is best defined as the clearest statement of what you're trying to convince me. The clearest possible statement of your claim. The more specific you get, the better the rest of your paper is going to be, because a nice specific thesis kind of walks your reader through the paper, and that's what we're trying to do. Your thesis can largely be based on the thoughts you have as you go through your research. And it doesn't have to be, this is what these people say, gee, aren't they brilliant? Most of the things I've written are because I read research and I'm like, but you're not talking about X. Why aren't you talking about X? And that is me reacting to the research. It's because it's me looking and finding a void in the research and trying to fill it. Thesis statements are always works in progress. As you go on your paper, if your thoughts change, your argument needs to change. But you have to have an idea where you're going before you start. Now, this is all kind of fun and fine and dandy to talk about in a big, broad, general sense, but we need to get specific. So I'm going to give you a sample thesis. The peanut butter and jelly sandwich is the best sandwich. Really, look at it. This is obviously a King Hell peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but if your mouth isn't watering, I don't know what's wrong with you. Now, this is an argument because it's a claim. It would be a good argument if I can support it with evidence. If it was an undisputed fact, then it wouldn't be worth talking about at all, because if no one disagrees, we got nothing. But there's always somebody who says BLT. Ha! No, BLTs are not the best sandwich. Peanut butter and jelly is. Some people will say turkey. No, they're wrong too. Peanut butter and jelly is the best type of sandwich. If I'm starting with this, then I can start to figure out how I'm going to go about supporting this thesis. And planning out your argument before you sit down and bash out words is a very good idea. So let's talk about the outlining process. The way I tend to do it is I like to do the whole nested 1, 2, 3 ABC thing. The very top level is my thesis statement. I will write it as specifically as I can get it, keeping in mind it's a work in progress and it should evolve. Then I'll come out with the broad categories of support for the thesis statement. 2, 3, 4, 5, however many pop to mind. No 5 paragraph essays, please. I know somewhere in school you were taught the 5 paragraph essay model, and it has its merit, but the reason teachers teach you the 5 paragraph essay model is because it's a form and we want you to know of some kind of form. In reality, not every argument needs three and exactly three sources, three bits of support in it. Some will need more, some will need less. It really depends on the argument. So let's do a sample outline. Peanut butter and jelly is the best sandwich, would be our big claim. Subclaim, it's tasty because of contrasts. And then I come up with supporting evidence here. It's savory and sweet. Soft, light bread and dense, moist filling. It's another type of contrast, so it's another subtopic. It's affordable. Ingredients cost less than a Starbucks coffee. It's lower cost than a grilled cheese and soup. Wide choice of ingredients at different price points. And man, this one's true. You go to the grocery store and there's going to be 87 different varieties of everything. Yeah, you can go chunky if you happen to be evil, or you can go smooth, you can go natural, but there's also about 5 or 6 brands of each of those. And then there's the ones that add flavors. Go to the grocery store, you're going to see somebody overwhelmed by the massive amounts of choice. There's a lot of them. You can get gourmet stuff. You can get the value brand. So you can make it as deluxe as you want to, or you can make it as cheap as you want to. It's nutritious. Bread is high in fiber. Some people don't get enough fiber. Bad things happen to you if you don't get enough fiber. That's a different class. Peanuts are a good protein source. They're a very excellent protein source. Peanut butter and jelly sandwich is available anywhere. You can find the ingredients in gas stations. You don't have to go out of your way to get them. Are you going to find bacon for a BLT at a gas station? I don't think so. You can eat a PB&J in the car. You can eat it anywhere. It's easy to eat. Are you really going to try to eat a club sandwich while driving? I don't want to see your car if you try to do that. So look at what we have here. We have a big argument. PB&J is the best sandwich. Then we have 4 subpoints. Each of those has a few different points. And the third level of heading here, the ones that are in purple on your screen, you can basically count on about a paragraph to support each of those. By doing an outline like this, it not only gives us a logical path to work through, it gives us a map of where the paper is going to go, and I got a pretty good idea of how long this paper is going to be, because we got PB&J is the best sandwich thesis. That's going to be an introduction. Savory and sweet 2, bread and filling 3, less than Starbucks coffee 4, grilled cheese and soup 5. Then we have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Plus, you're going to need a conclusion, an 11-paragraph essay. We have a plan. We can proceed. Once you have a plan, start the drafting process. 1 paragraph for each lowest level subheading. You got that outline isn't just you throwing ideas together, it's getting the actual structure of the paper. Strong topic sentences. I should, when I read your paper, be able to tell what the paragraph is about by reading the absolute first sentence. State it directly. Refer back to the thesis or previous argument. You're not just shoving 10 or 12 different factoids together and expecting me to tie it on my own. It's your job to create some kind of cohesive unity in the paper. 1 quotation citation per paragraph. No, I don't really love this one. I don't like formulas. I don't like the 5-paragraph essay formula. Things are different depending on your subject. This is a good guideline, though. If you give me nothing but cited material, I'm going to say, is there anything of you in it? If you give me something that has no citations, I'm going to wonder if you're just making up the information. A citation, cited material, one element per paragraph, that's a decent level. If you have an overly long paragraph, it might be a good idea to look to find out where you can break that sucker up into little subsections. And almost always when I see an overly long paragraph, I can find somewhere in there where it looks like you're starting to talk about something else. You'll see a lot more of this stuff in progress as we go through sample papers, as we do any number of things in here. So let's find a paragraph within our peanut butter and jelly is the best type of sandwich. I've even color coded it for you. Strong topic sentence in red. One of the aspects of the PB&J is that it sets it apart from the competition is its unique combination of contrasting elements. Topic. Reasoning is in black. Prime among these is a contrast between the savory, salty peanut butter and the sweet jelly. Creating a contrast between savory and sweet elements is a well-known technique for achieving deliciousness. This contrast is even sought after by high-end chefs seeking to create unique food experiences. Now we have evidence in blue. Restaurateur Ayapaco Falai, in an interview with the Specialty Foods Association, explained that the contrast between sweet and savory is one of the most basic in food. And we have a citation there. We don't leave it there. We explain how all this stuff fits together. The peanut butter and jelly sandwich, then, is loaded with one of the prime characteristics of amazing cuisine. So, topic, reasoning, evidence, summing up. Let's try another one. The ingredients for a typical PB&J cost less than a medium coffee at Starbucks. That's our claim. Reasoning. To construct a PB&J, you need 2 pieces of bread, a tablespoon of peanut butter, and a tablespoon of jelly. Factoid. An average price of bread in the United States is $1.40 for a 1-pound loaf containing 12 slices. Bureau of Labor Statistics. And if this is from the government, we know it's got to be right. Right? Right? Thus, 2 slices of bread cost approximately 23 cents. A pound of peanut butter costs approximately $1.90, same source. And back to the reasoning, and is equivalent to about 28 tablespoons. This gives us a price of about 6 cents for a tablespoon of peanut butter. Assuming the same price for jelly, this makes a grand total of 34 cents for a sandwich. We have another bit of factoid here. It's a much lower price than $1.75 for a grande drip coffee at Starbucks. This is a little old information. God knows how much Starbucks charges at nowadays. Then we have our little transition wrap-up. This means that a PB&J is not only delicious, referring to the point we made before, but is also affordable. You see, there's not only a structure for a paper to go, there's a structure for a decent paragraph to go. Make the claim, spell out how everything works, give me a fact, wrap it all up. So let's say you've got your outline, you know you're doing a 12-paragraph paper, you know how each paragraph is laid out, you write each paragraph. Then what do? Are you done? You turn it in at the last minute? No. Review your stuff. Good writing isn't writing. Good writing is rewriting. Most of the stuff in writing isn't typing down your brilliant first drafts. Most first drafts are horrible. You go back and you fix stuff over and over and over. You spend the actual first draft process shouldn't be the biggest thing. You should prep for it a whole lot, and then you should go back and fix everything. Once you finish your draft, you've got some questions to ask. 1, did you really prove the original thesis? If you did, go to the next step. Almost always, you found out that you're not ending up doing exactly what the original thesis says you're going to do. So you got some options at that point. You can change the draft and make it so you are now supporting your original thesis, or you can change the thesis itself. Either of them are good. Now, realism note here. You know, and I know, that we really can't make an argument about the PB&J being the best sandwich. It's just too big and broad. Can I compare it to every single sandwich out in the world? Of course I can. But I can make a more narrow defined claim. And making your claim more narrow and defined is always a good thing. Peanut butter sandwiches are a good choice for travelers because they are affordable, tasty, and easily portable. It's a more specific statement. As a thesis, it's making a more defined claim. It's not nearly as broad, but that's good because if it's a bit more narrow, we have access to more specific stuff to claim our argument. Then, once you come up with a plan, you go ahead and go into the revision process. And we're going to talk a lot more about this as we go, but this is a good outline of what we're doing for a paper. You do some research while thinking about your subject. You come out with a claim. You do a bit more research to see how well you can prove it. And then you plan out your paper. Do it step by step. You connect the dots in the individual paragraphs. Make sure you did what you think you were trying to do. As I said, we'll cover a lot more, but that's our overview. And as always, if you have any questions on the writing process, please do let me know. I'm here to help. See you next video.